southwest of England, geographically, has an overwhelming variation in the landscapes, from the moors of Dartmoor, Bodmin and Exmoor to the tiny fishing coves on the south coast to the rugged coastline of the north, where the Atlantic rushes in from the Americas with nothing in between. There is an incredible blue light to the sea and landscape. Over the years, the Southwest has been a major inspiration to the artists from all over the world, many of whom stayed to develop their style of work, painting the landscapes as they see it, building up a large and valuable look at the changing culture and social side of the area, as well as the changes in the landscape. In the past, the areas relied a lot more on the sea for their livelihood, which was reflected in earlier paintings. Plymouth has been a focal point to the wealth of talented artists such as Robert Lenkiewicz, who have created notoriety just as much as the pirates in the past who lived and sailed from the Barbican port of Plymouth, which is also where the Pilgrim Fathers left the Barbican steps to discover America. Beryl Cook became highly recognised for recording the lives of people in the city, especially around her local pub called the Dolphin, as well as everyday people in and around the city. Lawrence of Arabia lived and worked in Mountbatten across the water from the Barbican, and Captain Scott left Plymouth to travel on his fateful trip to the North Pole. From 1881 onwards, the Southwest became the hub of art, with the Newland School of Artists founded by Stanhope Forbes and Walter Langley, and the French influence of painting known as plein air, concentrating on outdoor life and landscape.
I was born in this area. I was actually born in Devonport in Plymouth. So this is my hometown, and I grew up here to the age of about 8, and then moved away to Cornwall and lived in a sort of beach resort down there until I was about 16, and then lived in the Dartmoor village, and then left the country and lived in Germany for about 8 years, and I came back here initially just to do a degree and then go back and work in Germany, but while I was here I sort of fell in love with the place again, and well, probably for the first time really. I think when I left as an 18-year-old I didn't really know what the West Country had to offer, so I went away with a sort of very small image of the place in my mind. Came back, had a bit of a look around, realised it was quite a beautiful place to live, and I changed my mind about going back to Germany. The animals, it's quite a strange thing. I remember seeing programmes about artists and their work, and you see this natural progression from one thing to another, and I thought, oh well, I can't be a proper artist because nothing I do seems to progress from anything. It just seems to be completely new ideas which sort of spring from nowhere. Until one day I was sorting out my photographs of paintings that I'd done over the past 10 years or so, and I realised there was a progression, which was a bit of a shock, and the animals had actually descended directly from this phase I went through a few years ago, where I was painting fabrics. I'd sort of taught myself to paint for about 10 years in a very sort of traditional way, and then I started to get a bit restless and look for my own style and my own colours, and just something I could call my own that not everyone could obviously do. And I looked at a lot of paintings from different eras and decided that I particularly liked pre-Raphaelite paintings. And one of the things that always struck me about pre-Raphaelite paintings was the fantastic fabrics that they painted and the skill that was needed to paint them and represent them in the way that they did. And then when I accidentally sort of came up with the idea of painting the cows, and I did the first cow painting, I immediately recognised it and thought, this is something I like, this is something I want to carry on doing, because I think it sort of reminded me of all the fabrics, all the folds and the fabrics. The thing I like about this area of the country is you can step out of your door and walk for a few miles, even in a city like Plymouth, and you're in the most stunning, beautiful, inspirational countryside, which is empty because no one else seems to step out their door and walk anywhere. And you can walk in almost any direction and come across a different scene. The landscape's on a very human scale as well. And what I mean by that is you can go for a 5-mile walk and you can walk through woodlands, a little bit of coastline, and get a little bit of everything within that walk. It's not true of all landscapes. There's a lot of grandiose landscapes in other parts of Europe. I'm particularly thinking of a holiday I went on to Germany.
The colourful and controversial artist Robert Lenkiewicz lived most of his life and spent his final years in Plymouth. A colourful man with a larger-than-life personality, he questioned attitudes to relationship, love, religion and sex. Over the years he built up a very large collection of books, including many valuable first editions covering the subjects of metaphysics, philosophy, death, suicide, euthanasia, theology, literature and poetry. The library covered several floors of his main studio building as well as other buildings around the Barbican and other areas. He also had the body of a down-and-out friend, Diogenes, preserved and hidden away. The authorities knew about this but could not get access until after Robert's death in 2002, when the preserved body was found in a hidden drawer in the artist's studio, where hundreds of people have visited over the years. Later, in another part of the studio, the body of a preserved witch was found. A few years earlier, he had falsified his own death by having his obituary put in the Times newspaper. Robert was born in 1941 of Jewish parents, and this influenced the projects he covered throughout his life. His fascination with human behaviour led him to create 20 projects during his life, covering vagrancy, death, mentally handicapped, jealousy, orgasm, old age, observations on local education, amongst others. Over the years, Robert had built up a very large collection of paintings, some of which can still be seen in the Barbican. Before Robert died, the Lenkiewicz Foundation was formed with the intention of keeping his work together for further generations. The Fisher Mackenzie Publishing Company was set up before his death by two of his friends and now publishes art prints and information on Robert's work. You can also see his work at the Lenkiewicz website at www.robertlenkiewicz.co.uk. See the world with open eyes. Breathe in the aromas of life. Nature's colours all around us, brought from the spectrums of light.
When I was at school, that was about the only thing that I was really any good at, was drawing and painting. So when I finished my schooling at the age of 14, it was just automatic for me to go on to art college. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't have any desire to do anything particularly. I wasn't intending to be a painter or a sculptor or anything like that. I just wanted to go to art college, and so that's what I did. My first art college was Chesterfield College of Art, and I was there for 2 years, and then went on to Maidstone College of Art down in Kent for a further 2 years and passed my National Diploma in Design. Whilst I was at Chesterfield College of Art, in the first 2 terms that I was there, I was asked, or I was told basically, to go down to the local theatre because they were looking for people to actually go and help within the repertory company during the season. Now, 2 of us were actually sent down there. I didn't know at that stage anything about theatre at all, so it was a bit of a surprise to me, but I found that I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was an environment that I thrived in. The other person that went down hated it, so it turned out that I did his time down at the theatre as well as mine, much to the annoyance of the tutors at the college, because I was never there. I did a very short summer season at a little theatre in Sheringham. In fact, it was the little theatre, which was a fantastic experience because there was no money. It was weekly repertory company. Nothing was provided for you, so you had to go and beg, borrow or steal everything you needed for the sets. But not only did I have to design them and design the costumes, but I had to make everything as well. So it was quite a hard experience, but thoroughly enjoyable. I always remember Sheringham Theatre because my workshop was right above where they parked the refuse lorry when it came in at night, so you can imagine the smell that was always through that building. I walked into Dingle's one day, which wasn't then the House of Fraser, and said, were any jobs going? And I thought maybe I'd get a job on the display side. But they seemed to think different, and they actually offered me a job on the shop fitting side. Well, I didn't know anything about shop fitting or shop design, so I had to learn very quickly, and I ended up doing designs for quite a lot of the Dingle's premises throughout Devon and Cornwall. And then the Fraser Group took us over, and we suddenly found we had shops from Cardiff right the way down to Bournemouth and right the way down to Penzance to try and sort of get changed. After some time of that, I then joined another shop fitting company as a designer and did a lot of drawing. Drawing and art has been the mainstay of what I've done really throughout my working life. With the shop fitting, I then started doing lots more visuals because customers really need to see what the shops were going to look at like when they were finished. So this was the sort of role that I played as a designer. Most of my designs were created from visuals and then worked backwards into drawings rather than doing drawings first and then coming up with an image of what it was going to look like. A lot of the time, because of time pressures, I only did them in pencil, but gradually that developed much more into colour. And after a few years with them, I then decided to go freelance and sort of became my own boss. And really that's the way it's been ever since, other than about 11 years in between where I actually had a shop fitting company of my own. I've recently gone into working with couples. I think this relationship again between the two people really fascinates me, and it comes back to the music side where you've got 2 or 3 instruments all sort of interlocking, and this is what happens with the figures for me. The movement and the rhythm between one figure relating to the other is just it's just out of this world as far as I'm concerned. Really, as much time as I can now, I spend actually drawing from the life figure. I find bodies absolutely fascinating. It's been something that's been with me all my life, and the more I see of how bodies work and what they look like, the more I want to delve into it and explore it as far as I can go. Because of my interest in bodies, I've recently gone over to working with body casts, which gives me both the aesthetic look, and it's like a piece of art at the end of the day, but it also gives me this technical challenge of how to be able to achieve the end result. So I'm experimenting with doing body casts, mainly in plaster and in fiberglass, and now I'm actually I've discovered using latex, and so that's going to develop a bit further. Time is my biggest problem. There's just so many things that I want to do and so little time to do it. So watch this space.
I started painting or drawing. I travelled quite a bit when I was a teenager to Israel, America and Greece, and because I was learning a lot about the world around me, I needed to express the things I was learning about, and started doing very strange pencil drawings, mostly about politics, religion, animal cruelty, sex, and the drawings were really just my way of expressing what I was learning. I came back to London, I'm from London originally, and decided to learn to draw. I'd met people when I was travelling who'd been to college, and went to evening classes. I had a very, very good teacher who told me that I needed to draw what's outside of me before I could draw what's inside of me, and I needed to draw every day, and I was a very obedient student and drew every day. I went to evening classes and got my qualifications, and eventually went to Foundation College and then on a degree in Leeds. My work is about relationships. I'm very interested and concerned that there's movement in my work. I want the people there to be moving, not static, which is really how particularly women have been portrayed in an art historical context. Living in Leeds was really good. The art scene was quite vibrant up there, but I found it really difficult being stuck in the middle of the land with the sea on either side of me. And the opportunity came to come and move down to Plymouth, which I did. Absolutely loved it, fell in love with the place, loved the moors, loved Cornwall, loved the coast. Doesn't influence my art at all, but it's kind of a sanctuary, an emotional sanctuary. My work tends to grow from looking at a series, looking at a theme, which over the past few years has taken me a year and a half to fully explore. 3 years ago, my work was concerned with trying to paint about my relationship with my daughter, and how independent and dependent we are on each other. I then developed that into looking at our situation, because we swim quite a lot, we're both keen swimmers, and I'd done lots of drawings of her when she's having swim lessons, and wanted to paint two people in the water, looking at how the water changes, distorts the figures. It was incredibly difficult. It took me months and months and months of exploration, failure, experimentation to learn how to paint water before I could then put figures in the water, which then took about 3 months really. But again, it's the movement, it's the relationship between two people, being in something that is supportive but also invisible. You can see straight through it. There are lots of emotional links there between the water and human relations. Future plans? I don't know, really. I think if you know where your destination is, there's no point in going.